I brighten up this room.
Tiny white spot.
If North Carolina does not win tonight, which we don't even want to acknowledge that possibility, you might have a TWA tomorrow because I'm not going to want to talk to you. So,
All right,
let's go Tar Heels.
you'll have every English
Good book characteristics. What
I like
do we
the
have?
cover.
Engaging your emotional development.
And in any way possible, like, it doesn't have to be a character necessarily, just, okay. So, you engage, like, readers' emotions? Okay. And certainly, Ben, like, there can be a wide range of emotions that can get involved. Do you think there are any that work better or that don't work as well? Or, okay, fair enough. Aiden, do you have?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we kind of talked about it before, with like going against rules, but like a character that you can root for.
Okay. Jordan?
I was gonna say like offer something other than just like entertainment.
So other than entertainment, okay. So like a purpose or reason behind it?
A character you love to hate.
Any characters from like other books?
Oh,
Like-
I mean, I hate Billy.
Well,
Yeah,
Nurse Ratched from Cuckoo's Nest, okay. Shelby, do you need these two matched up, like a character to root for and one to love to hate, or
No.
you can get by with like sometimes just having that one? Okay. Carol?
Kind of going off of that, also empathy.
Empathy? Like feeling empathy for a character, or
Or just like a situation.
okay.
Perspective on like
Development of a plot. You mean like having twists and turns with it, or?
Yeah, it's like
Okay. Anybody else? Kaylee, did you have one that was like get to the point or something?
yeah, it's the point.
Gets to the point. So you like Hemingway?
no. Takes forever.
I don't know what you're saying.
We can hear your fiction on the sea.
Well, you knew that right away.
But it took so long for him to return.
A fair one honestly.
That could have been 3 pages long.
Like he goes to like
Yeah, I didn't.
Anything else?
Okay, illustrations.
There's usually someone that's going to throw that in there.
Yeah, but like besides just like having pretty pictures, I enjoy whenever there's maps or something in books where they're traveling. Like if they would have given me a map with like all the Jersey territory and like point A, point B, that would have made it even better.
So like when like a lot of versions of the Iliad or like Odyssey or whatnot, it'll have a map kind of showing where characters are coming from, especially and like Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
Hobbit will do stuff like that because of so it doesn't have to be pictures with character balloons and all that kind of stuff, but
Those are
visuals.
nice also.
Yeah. What about like the little Harry Potter doodles at the beginning of chapters,
I like that.
like those?
If it rhymes, it's usually pretty good.
Dr. Seuss fan.
Yes.
Pictures.
If you rhyme and have pictures,
Wow.
you're gonna sell a lot of books.
Yeah, if it rhymes and.
Most people haven't figured that out.
Yeah, I know. Words don't sell books. Pictures do.
What did you think it was?
Or like our cat in the hat.
He's in a hat. I guess he's in a hat.
It's like a little cherry on top there.
Cherry.
Anything else? That's a pretty good list. Okay.
Symbolism.
Symbolism.
There has to be some type of village something general.
So it doesn't have to be like Shelby had the character you love to hate, but at least some well, evil entity is the right idea, but something bad.
A bad guy.
Something bad. So you said it could be character, conflict. I think you had the third one. Tragedy. Okay. We're good? So, looking at the whole thing, certainly a variety of things are going to be taking place. Now, for Slaughterhouse 5, and by no means do you have to say it's a good book. Had some folks really don't like it, which is perfectly fine. Some people do. Does it hit on any of these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's going to be opinionated. Lexi's going like this for those of you who can't see her, and then Jack's going, yeah,
It rhymes.
at times.
Yeah.
Oh!
Which ones would you say it does hit fairly frequently? So not like, okay, here's this one isolated example, but that would be there.
I mean, I just thought another thing down the list, which is
Okay.
the word full. Like, it's not a heart of darkness, i.e., you can actually read it without losing interest in 5 minutes.
So would you just say readable?
Yeah.
5 minutes is a little ambitious.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean, it should come
Short.
Yeah.
Anyone like
You can get lost in 3 minutes.
the Geronimo Stilton books growing up?
Those were good.
I can't stand them.
Really?
I can't-
Wait.
I don't find it readable. Like I'll try to when Addie or Sadie's starting to like them, I can't read them out loud.
Really?
There's something, and I can't even explain what it is. It's like I just don't like the way that this is working.
Treehouse fan.
I do like Magic
Fans
Treehouse.
are like, oh my god, stop.
All right, so Slaughterhouse 5. Which ones would you say it does kind of hit on? And so like Jack, you were
New perspective on life.
Okay.
The whole, like, from a much warrior point of view.
yeah. Any others?
Bad character.
All of them? Like, would you say like tragedy in the sense of Dresden, or do you think there's a bad guy?
I think the
Okay.
characters are bad, and it has a bad tragedy in it, and there's no real conflict, which is bad.
Can it be bad if it's not there? There's illustrations.
Illustrations. There's the character that you love to hate.
Lots of them.
Well, and that's where now things start to get interesting, because you will have folks going, I can't stand Billy. I think First Period's quote was, Billy is a wimp. He just gets dragged everywhere. And she was like, I literally mean dragged everywhere. And others are going, I love Billy.
Yeah, he's cool.
Trying to like him.
He's trying his best, alright?
He's
You
trying
want
to
Give the man some
So,
I'm trying. I'm trying.
and it's not to say that Slaughterhouse 5 would be the only one that does this. But some folks, and again, I'm not trying to force this upon you, way of thinking, some folks would argue that Billy is the character that you could root for. Others would go, he's the character that you absolutely love to hate. I think for some folks, mentioned Cuckoo's Nest, where Nurse was a character that you love to hate. McMurphy is a character that people a lot of times root for, even though he is a despicable human being. Yet I'm sure there are people who will read the book that would hate McMurphy based on the fact that he is a despicable human being. So again, you certainly can have some leeway with it. I would say if you go, Jack, you said new perspective on life.
Yeah.
So probably purpose beyond entertainment, that would kind of start to take place. The ones that I would be interested about, do you get empathy or emotions taking place with it? And you're going no.
I feel like the way he writes it, like the tone is very not empathetic, but I think you can still get that from maybe what's a bad emotion from readers.
Okay. Would Jack, you were shaking your head no, which I assume is saying no for empathy.
Yeah.
Would you say there would be other emotions? Like you would agree there's empathy.
No, I'm
Or-
saying that like it's very like apathetic the way he writes it, like
Mhm.
his own emotions, but he can still elicit that from the readers.
The empathy coming from the readers.
Yeah.
Even though his tone he doesn't naturally create it with the words that
Yeah.
he uses in tone and attitude and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
The only moment at which I can remember feeling anything about the book really is whenever they said that the feet were bleeding
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
because they were overworked. That was sad.
Well, and that's certainly where, and you get symbolism kind of coming in down here and things like that. Obviously, purpose beyond entertainment is a big part of me thinks that's certainly on purpose for him. That, war, you talked about there's nothing intelligent you can say about a massacre because it's humans killing humans. The fact that you do get a entity, a being that is so innocent, animal, horses at this point, that does kind of become, I think, maybe a little bit more poignant for us because it truly would be an innocent victim bystander at this point. And then you get the wagon showing up again at the very end of the book with horses pulling it, so maybe they end up kind of being okay with is hopefully what takes place.
I think that like the book itself, like if you just take it completely literally, like the story about Billy and his life, is like there's no plot, there's like nothing to it. Nobody really cares very much about anybody that's in it. But like what he's trying to do, like behind the story, is where you get the emotion from. Like you don't like Billy could have like died and probably not very many people would care. But like
Billy does that, 1976. February
he
30th.
Best part.
Laser gun.
but like he could have gotten like killed in the war or something, and not very many people would have cared very much. But like, it's not the actual story that like I feel like is what he was trying to get emotion from, because like Michelle said, it's kind of his style of writing is like really apathetic. It's like the war part, how is it anti-war book? I feel like that's what he's trying to do.
And then Ben and Carol will get to both of you, which, in a sense, again, you don't have to like the book, is fairly remarkable for how little bit of the book is devoted to war. You do get, the quotes. It was like the moon that you have on the quote quiz. I think that's a line that does a very good job of kind of conveying what it would have been like. I've never been to the moon, but we certainly kind of get this picture of total bleak desolation, like kind of powder substance that you'd be walking through. That lets me know everything's gone, leveled, craters, and probably more so in a way that Hemingway would be able to explain with a Farewell to Arms, more so than I think what Mark is able to do with All Quiet on the Western Front. It was like the moon for me perfectly sets up what that atmosphere, environment, setting, all those things would be like.
I feel like every part where he says "so it goes" is supposed to like exemplify the apathy that generates empathy. And
Does it work for you?
sometimes, like whenever it's the part with the dog in this springy state
Mhm.
was like really sad.
Yeah, probably the dog and the horses, I think, is where people feel the worst.
Yeah.
And again, you got non-humans. And when is Billy the happiest? Probably when he's not on Earth
And his wife, 'cause that was really sad.
with the carbon monoxide.
Yeah.
That was.
And yet, I can see people chuckling at it too. I don't know if anyone did, as I look at Jack. But it would be like, how can this situation get any worse? Oh wait, there it did, with the carbon monoxide. Carol.
I guess like kind of what Michelle and Lexi was saying, like his goal is kind of to, if we were talking about like coping mechanisms and like so it goes, and like how the soldiers are kind of denying that, like they're denying emotion so that they can deal with their situation, and like by making the reader do that, they kind of recognize what the soldiers are going through.
And you, have not served in the military, and I don't think at this point in my life I probably are going to have to. I would imagine that if you are going to survive a circumstance like that, you do have to put emotions aside. Can't and some of you very well might have uncles, grandfathers like involved with World War II, D-Day. If you were to think about every single human life, maybe not you're individually responsible for, but that are dying at those moments, you're not going to survive. I think I would imagine it would be difficult to kind of reprogram yourself in a way that after coming back from that you have to kind of change your perspective of life. And I would assume that transition can be a struggle for absolutely a lot of people. Yeah. Kelsey, did you take your sneaking?
What? I like this one. Oh. I just saw it was.
Put your hand up.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say?
So there's like a certain example they're like involved in the Holocaust, and it kind of reminds me of that because whenever it was over, he was like, I don't really want to remember any of this, and because it was just so awful, and he had to tell the story because other people didn't believe it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's kind of the same thing where he wants to put it aside, but he has to tell him to not make people knew about it and knew of its effects.
And it certainly I think your point is valid where it's not so much the Holocaust where we've all heard about it and you will still get groups of people arguing it never did happen and things like that. But this is kind of more of unveiling a curtain to something that people did not know about. And so I need to tell it, yet at the same time can he absolutely go through and number one, who knows if he can even go through step by step to explain it, because some of those memories, ideas have probably in a way been kind of erased or distorted from his mind, but this is the best way that he can go about doing it. And so I think, again, whether or not you view the book as being effective or not is totally up to you, but it's interesting for me where a lot of people will go, ooh, I like this book, or I can't wait to read this book, and yet when you come up with the list of things that you really look for within a not a classic literature book, but a book that people generally accept as this is a good one, the criteria that it hits in a lot of ways can be few and far between. One of the aspects with it that I think people aren't sure how to handle is the humor part to it. And I think where that really gets emphasized a little bit is the plane crash and the Polish references that you have taking place. Plane crash being when he's getting onto the plane that is going to crash into Sugarbush Mountain. Of course he goes, and I know it's going to crash, but I didn't want to tell anyone because I don't want to look like a fool, which that's a whole debatable thing in its own right. Do we do things to strictly avoid, do we avoid doing things that we should do to avoid looking a fool? Probably from time to
To
Mm-hmm.
time.
be honest with you, if he would have started telling people that the plane was going to crash, they would have thought it was crazy anyway, so it's not going to.
And he would get removed from the plane, we would assume, and then the plane would still take off, and the assumption would be rather than him and the co-pilot surviving, at that point it would just be the co-pilot. Now, you can also look at it from the Salvadorian viewpoint where he can't tell them that it's going to happen because it always does happen, it always will happen, and this is the way it always happens. Although the whole Tralfamadorian thing really starts to kind of take shape after that plane crash. So if you're looking for does this really happen or not, that could be a way in which there might be some mental delusion that's taking place. But on the plane, you have the Febs, the quartet, and we won't mention their full name, but you know it full and well at this point, I think. Remember, they're also at his anniversary, wedding anniversary. What number? 15. 18.
Why 18?
Your higher grade years.
Yeah.
Good answer. You gotta pick a number at some point. I don't know why they go with that one. But you have the Febs who sing the songs, and they do their little like limerick kind of songs, and they're silly, goofy, And then you have two songs that are like Polish references, and basically they're, in some ways like dirty jokes that are kind of taking place with them. And then it jumps. And it goes to Billy really did know a Polak during the war, and he was executed, for having sex with a German girl. And I think that's a scene where people really aren't sure, how am I supposed to react to it? They'll read the songs, and some folks will kind of chuckle at the joke, which is chuckling, I guess, new word we've created. And then you read about what really happened in World War II, which you assume is going to be true, and you go, ooh, how am I supposed to feel about that? Does the juxtaposition of having, and we mentioned the silly, serious idea last week when we were taking a look at this, the silliness and the seriousness that is happening, does the juxtaposition of the humor and the seriousness help emphasize the issue, or does it take away from the book? Because not the main, but one of the main complaints that folks will have about the book is it takes something that is too serious and you're making fun of it, you're making light of it. If we were to take a field trip to the Holocaust Museum, it would not be the time or place for Jack to go, hey, listen to this joke that I have. You don't do that there. And so folks would argue with this book, you don't do that here. You're talking about people dying. You're talking about World War II. You're hitting close to home, but you are making all these jokes with it. You folks have read Night, or most of you have, Elie Wiesel, two completely different viewpoints, and kind of similar to, I would think, Wiesel doesn't really want to necessarily talk about it all the time, but feels like he had to through the book. Is it a weird way in which it does kind of emphasize the seriousness that's taking place?
I think it's kind of circumstantial because like Vonnegut, he was there, he experienced these things, whereas Jack, for example, had not.
Mm-hmm.
So he has sort of more of a right to not poke fun, but to make these kind of jokes and express it this way than Jack would.
So Vonnegut kind of has like the freedom or the right to, I don't want to say get away with it, but get away with it.
I feel like it makes it more serious because whenever you laugh at the silly part and then you do the serious part, you feel guilty, and I feel like that guilt is what he wants you to feel, I guess. How do you think about the serious thing? So I don't think you could have the serious without the silly.
Empathy is the difference between sympathy and empathy, if you can empathize, you know how it feels. And so we can't probably truly empathize with it, but at least that feeling of guilt or the honest emotions that you create through that juxtaposition, you would say that would kind of allow us to better relate to it. Yeah, and I think that point is absolutely valid, and it certainly would be, we had a new perspective right here, that might be a way to kind of create that perspective. I think going into Hiroshima or going into All Quiet on the Western Front, people knew what the book was going to be about, and even if it does have some poignant moments to it, because you already know where it's going to go and how it's going to the end, I don't think there is that emotional investment that takes place. There's not really a plot to the book. There is not a plot to the book. I won't even say there's not really. There is not a plot to the book. I mean, Vonnegut even pretty much says there is no plot to this book. But I think the fact that people don't know where it is going kind of helps with that, where it keeps you on your toes a little bit, and you do get that kind of genuine reaction from it. So the book is farcical in some kind of ways. It's silly in ways. The pictures, I don't know if you like the pictures or not. Some kind of have some meaning, some kind of wonder why they're there. But I would say that, yeah, he does kind of create that emotional attachment that maybe other books just aren't quite able to do. Tomorrow we'll take a look at that note sheet and we'll do more detail. I had a chocolate chip cookie on Friday. It's good. Yeah, it was Megan's. Well, your creation.
But Megan had